Okay. So welcome to a special edition of the Rom Wills show. And tonight we have with us Master Yao and Yamache Morris. We're going to talk about the amygdala and black relationships. And trust me, it gets deep. It gets deep. But first I want to welcome Master Yao to the show. How you doing tonight, Master Yao?
Doing excellent. Thank you, sir, for having me on.
Well, you know what? Let's just jump right into it. Well, let me give some background first. People who are familiar with my channel know I've talked about the womb imprint and also the imprint on men. And I've always given you credit for learning that information from you, but the best place to get the information is from the master. And I wanted to really talk about the amygdala because of the effect it has on, especially on the male imprint, but also on the woman as well. So let's just jump right in and tell us about what that little piece of the brain, what does it do?
The amygdala is right attached to the hypothalamus complex in the brain at the top of the limbic brain, right underneath the pituitary gland, which is located pretty much right in the center of the gland at top of the spine.
Okay.
It's very, very small. And a lot of people that study the brain don't really even give it much credit for anything. But it's really very important in what it does and how people relate to each other. So when we talk about the amygdala, it has a lot of different functions, but it's really like the primary gatekeeper of what a man feels is important or not important. In other words, there are certain things that the amygdala keeps out and other things that the amygdala lets in, so that if a man feels like something is worth fighting for, that's the way that he comes to that conclusion is based on what the programming of his amygdala is. So it's part of the brain function that determines where something is in the priority of your life. So you have all of these circuits in the brain and these parts of the brain. And the brain is like sort of a prototype of the evolution of the species. In other words, you have parts of the brain that correspond to most of the animal kingdoms. You have a reptile brain, which is the most primitive part of the brain.
Okay.
You have a brain, a bird brain, or the cerebellum, what they call the bird brain. You have a mammal brain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Human brain, and these things have different functions and they correspond and work together with the cortex and all of this stuff like that. So the amygdala sort of is like a gatekeeper determining where in the brain this is going to be processed and how important it is. Okay. So in relationships, the best way that we can draw this analogy out is to compare it to other issues that the amygdala does. So let's say, for instance, if you're walking through the woods, excuse me, and you see a snake, a poisonous snake.
Hold on for a second, Master. Are you okay over there?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right.
All right. Setback trying to come through, so.
So let's just say you're walking through the woods, you see a poisonous snake.
Yes.
The amygdala immediately routes that to the reptile brain and basically says, this is critically important. This is a life or death matter if you are not very evolved. So you grew up in the city and all your life you've been told snakes are dangerous and, stay away from snakes, and you're based on fear. Then your amygdala, that man's amygdala, is going to see that snake and say, he's going to go ape. He's going to go crazy. He's going to go into his reptile brain mode, and he might run away, but his reaction is going to be not logical.
Mm-hmm.
You take a more evolved man, let's say he grew up in the country, he's used to snakes, and he's seen snakes before, and he knows what to do when he sees a snake. He simply sees the snake, and he's like, okay, this is a poisonous snake. Maybe I should kill it because it might hurt somebody else. Or he might say it's in its natural environment. I'm going to, walk away and make sure that I'm not in any danger. Or he might say, maybe there's other snakes around. Let me be more cautious. And he continues on. The most evolved man who is really in a really good place in his life, he is not going to be concerned about the snake that much because he's like, yeah, it's a poisonous snake, but just like anything else, there's a way to handle that snake. And he might go up to the snake, grab it by the tail, handle the snake and let the snake go. And he doesn't change he doesn't go into trance, he doesn't become hysterical. He simply deals with the situation based on what it's called for. Because if you don't have any fear in you, the snake won't react to you. It'll just pretty much ignore you. The snake can't eat you. It doesn't really want to interact with you at all. The snake wants to go and eat what it wants to eat, do what it wants to do, and it's scared of you. So as soon as it senses that you're not really afraid of it and you don't have any negative intent toward the snake pretty much goes on about its business.
Oh, okay. Well, let me interject some. I remember I shared something on my Facebook feed a few weeks ago, and it was a little kid. I think it was in a Southeast Asian country, and he was playing with this python. And it was funny. He was like bouncing up and down, and the python looked like it was trying to get away. And the kid was just having fun. And of course, somebody was there filming it. And I thought about that. I said, that kid has zero fear of that snake. That big snake looked like it could eat a deer or something, was trying to get away. So I thought when you said that, I thought about it. So that kid will probably never grow up with a fear of snakes.
No. When I was little, we used to hunt snakes.
Yeah.
If our mother caught us, she beat us. But still, we used to hunt them. We knew what to do. We used to cut the little tree branch out, with the little fork in it. And we'd pin its head down, grab it by the tail and whatever. And if you grew up in the country as a country boy on a farm, you didn't have that kind of a fear. You had a respect, but not a fear of snakes.
Okay.
So it's the same thing with women.
All right, that's where I wanted to go now because, I've talked about the imprint, and one of the things you could talk about is the brain mechanics of it, because I would tell people about the male imprint, but I couldn't say, I couldn't talk about all the brain stuff because you can get deeper into it. So let's transition to that. Yeah. So what happens? What happens?
Neil, who's not that evolved, he sees a very attractive woman.
Okay.
And immediately the amygdala says he's operating out of fear. The fear that she's going to reject him. Even if he already has a girlfriend, even if he's already somewhat confident about let's say he's a good farmer, or let's say he's a good mechanic, or let's say he's an executive, and he's good at what he does, and therefore he should have a nice relationship with women. If he's not that involved, and if he's not that comfortable around women, and if he's been trained a certain way, immediately the amygdala goes into a fear mode and routes that to the reptile brain and says, it's an attractive woman. Normally they reject me. And so this is very critical. I got to watch what I do. I got to watch what I say. And he goes into a panic mode. He goes into a thirsty mode, right? Okay. And so he's like, so his amygdala fires all of these brain things off. And he's like, he doesn't say what he really wants to say. He's not logical. He's not thinking about the fact that this is just a woman.
Yeah.
He's like, he goes a little teeny bit crazy. In other words, he stopped acting his normal self. Okay. You take a regular man, put him around a very attractive woman, he starts acting a little bit weird. Some of them do. You take the next man who's a little bit more evolved. It's the same thing with the snake. He sees the woman, attractive woman, and he basically says to himself, oh, okay, it's just something else in his environment, and he reacts to it based on what it's calling for. So he says it's an attractive woman, but more importantly, she's a woman. So what do I do around all women? Whether she's 70 or 17 or 27, whether she's attractive or not, you should have a certain program. How you doing, miss? Can I help you with your bags or whatever? You doing okay today? How's the weather? And, you keep it moving. The most evolved man, when he comes in contact with an attractive woman, his amygdala does not respond like that at all. His amygdala just says this is a natural scenario, and he routes it to the part of the brain that you normally route to if you come in contact with any new person, whether they're male or female. And so he just, he's not that, he doesn't change his mode of operation just because he comes in contact with an attractive woman. He just more or less sees the woman, he acknowledges that she's in his environment, he takes whatever action that, he looks at her and sees if she's paying attention to him, if she needs assistance, if he just wants to make her acquaintance, and then he keeps it moving. The same as you do with the snake. It's like he does not change his brain chemistry because of a potential relationship. Okay. So when we look at how does the brain operate for men, what we see is that nature has designed men so that they can be programmed by women if they do get into a relationship. And most women don't understand this. They don't really understand what's going on in the male brain chemistry. So with a man, when he has any type of a new experience, he's programmable. And what we mean by that is that, let's say you see a 3-year-old tying his shoes for the first time. He has to use his awake mind, his cortex. He has to figure out the laces, how to do it, how to wrap it, how to tie that knot. And the first time he does it, it's his awake mind has to do it. Then the second time he ties that shoelace, it's a little easier. Third time, fourth time, fifth time. By the time he gets to the 10th time, he's no longer using his awake mind. It's partly subconscious. It's partly brain dendrite patterns. In other words, the amygdala has sent that to the cortex. It's not in the reptile brain anymore. Okay. And so it's not classified as a new experience, and he doesn't secrete all of these neurochemicals and gets all of these chemicals in his brain so that he's firing more so that he can figure it out. And by the time he's been tying his shoes for a year, he doesn't think about it at all. It's automatic. It's a subconscious program. When he gets his shoes and puts his shoes on, he starts the process of tying them with his awake mind. And then his subconscious mind takes over and he just ties them automatically. He doesn't think about it. Okay. It's the same with relationships. When the man first enters into a relationship with a woman, his brain is really firing a lot. And the amygdala is thinking, this is important, this is critical. Yeah. And it's sending all of these, firing all of these neurons off for him to have this experience. So he's like, okay, he feels intoxicated. Okay. And he's programming himself. And after 3 or 4 months of spending time with that woman, it's the same as with the shoelaces. It's the same as with the snake. It's no longer a critical event. Okay. And the amygdala does not route it to the reptile brain, the fight or flight, this is critical, this is whatever, whatever. Mm-hmm. His brain does not send off all of these neurochemicals anymore. It's automatic. And then he's programmed himself for how he's going to deal with her. And every time he comes in her presence, the programming just takes over. That's how he functions. Whether it's sexual, romantic, if they're companions and they got to operate and deal with some problems, if they're dealing with children or they're dealing with the car or whatever. And based on the evolution of the man, it's the same thing with the woman. He stops seeing it as a new critical experience. This is how men cheat. This is how men get into certain patterns of behavior that are positive or negative. So the woman can use this time to program the man. In other words, those first 4 months, when his brain is generating all these neurochemicals when he comes in contact with her, that's when he can be programmed. And that programming will last the rest of their life together if they allow it to. So the woman has to be smart. If they're taught properly in society, which most of course are not, then she tries to program him to have the most positive experience he can with her. Okay. And if she does that, or he does that, then once the brain hands this off, it's no longer something that he's trying to figure out in his cortex. It's something that's automatic. It's right brain. It's something that is, he's learned from his programming that whenever he's around her, he's happy, or he's in fear, or he doesn't trust her, or he's trying to get something from her. And once that programming is embedded in him, it stays there. Okay. So if he's more superior man, then he's going to try to operate so that the relationship is successful. Yeah. That's his programming. He's always trying to do what he thinks he has to do to get what he wants out of that relationship. Okay. The superior man is even better than that. The superior man is like, I want us both to be happy, and we can be happy, and they are programmed to be happy. Therefore, he doesn't think about it. He doesn't worry about it. There's no stress. He just always does what is necessary for the two of them to be happy. Boom. And you keep it moving. Okay. Unfortunately, this isn't how it works today.
Well, that's one thing I wanted you to address, because the womb imprint, going back to when they're teenagers, because what we have out here are many men who have a negative imprint. I was thinking about what you were explaining about the amygdala, and just how people, they'll get in that same pattern. And like if a young girl reject them in high school, because we got plenty of guys out here, they remember the high school rejection, and then, they still dealing with it in their 30s and 40s. Many guys in this YouTube space, they still dealing with it. They'll say these women are this, or these women are evil. And I explained to you how my experience with attractive girls when I was a teenager was actually very positive. If anything, I blew stuff, but they were always nice to me. So if you could get into that, I think that would be very helpful, just the mechanics of it, because I've explained to people the general idea, but then you can explain the brain chemistry.
Anything in life that a man comes in contact with, it has a purpose. So, where you say to yourself, well, this poisonous snake, it's a good example, because a poisonous snake is not that big of a deal. It's a big deal because you get excited and you make it a big deal. Yeah. But the snake itself is just a snake. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with the relationship. If you come into it with this atmosphere of fear, and your amygdala routes everything to the reptile brain, you lose your ability to program the relationship correctly. It's operating out of fear. Why? Because women have been programmed and imprinted to place sex in a certain way so that it's something hard to get. And so you get a lot of guys get rejections a lot when they're younger. And I think that's the majority of men. And as a consequence, when they're adults, if they come into a relationship possibility, they're operating out of fear that's amygdala based, instead of joy.
Mm.
So it's like, you know, you have this situation, and you, when you're doing counseling and you talk to men, you can see this so clearly. When you trace back to when they were a teenager, when they first started having these scenarios, and you find out what happened then, how they were imprinted, it explains their behavior for the next 10, 20 years. Because one guy, he cheated on his wife. So we went back when I was with him, just me and him in the room. And I went back and traced it when he was 13. And he said he never had a relationship where it was just him and her relating, and he was focused on her, because he never trusted women, because he saw his mother doing stuff. Based on what he saw his mother doing with men, he never trusted women. So he was cheating on women. He always had another woman in the background if this one didn't work out, because he's operating off of fear, which women to some extent, you know, encourage, because they want sex to be something that's a little bit out of your reach, and they make it scarce. It's a scarcity model, and therefore men come into the scenarios thinking negative instead of positive. In other words, they're thinking, if I don't take some action, I'm going to be denied. When the right way to approach it is, okay, we're two human beings. There's some really positive things that can come out of our interaction together. Therefore, I'm assuming the best possible outcome is going to ensue. And so I'm going to act accordingly. Therefore, I can focus on this one woman, be present, do the things that make the relationship work, and I'm happy.
Okay.
But if you're in this scenario where you, in your teenage years, the first time you had sex is a disaster, then you know, when you're an adult as a male, your amygdala is basically saying, this is a risk-heavy scenario, like the poisonous snake.
Okay.
He thinks the guy from the city who's walking through the woods and he's confronted with the poisonous moccasin, he immediately thinks, this snake is going to bite me and kill me. I'm out here in the woods. If he bites me, I can't get to a doctor. I'm going to die. And he's basically completely in a state of fear. Yeah. The same thing with women. When the man, you know, in his early teenage years, doesn't trust women, has bad relationships, his first few sexual experiences are really negative, he goes into his adult mode, and the amygdala, when it comes into a relationship thing, says, this is going to end badly if you do something. Okay. And this is really, really the wrong way for men to approach relationships. It's the exact opposite of what he should be doing. But when you look at the women out here, and when you look at the experiences that most men are having, he's going to say, well, most men are having the same experience I'm having, so this must be the normal way to deal with women. And it's not. As I said before, you'll see the little boy handling the cobra. Well, he grew up around snakes, and he doesn't have a fear of them. Therefore, his outcome is good. Okay. Okay. So when you were young, you had positive experiences with women. Therefore, you assume when you become an adult, a positive experience with a woman is probably what's going to happen. Therefore, there's no need for me to be in a state of fear. Just handle myself normally and operate normally, and it's probably going to come out well.
Well, you know what, you Master, it's amazing you said that, because for years I wondered, I was like, I always got along with very attractive women. But and I actually thought about this when you first explained this to me the other night. And I was just like, well, I can't point to an experience where a very attractive woman rejected me. Only thing I could think of is when I blew it. They were like giving obvious signs they liked me or something, and I blew it. I just blew it because I was a little shy when I was younger. But at the same time, I don't see him as like, oh, this woman's going to do it, because I was like, you know, it's going to be a positive outcome. Because one of the things I've seen with many men, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you on air about this, it's that fear. It's that social anxiety. It's like, oh, they're going to do this, or they're not going to want me. They think I'm ugly, and it's deep. It's deep, and it's just like, just saying, go talk to them, because one, there's, we both talk about the select and non-select, which you got most of the YouTube space talking about that now. But it's a very big difference between how Mr. Goodbar is going to see a woman and maybe a nice guy.
Exactly. It's something that men need education on.
Mm.
And it's true that there's a lot of toxic women out there.
Yeah.
And so the man tends to have this predisposition that says the environment is dangerous when it comes to women. Mm. Therefore, I have to approach it as this is a high-risk situation. Mm. I have to deal from a perspective of fear of what's going to happen to me, rather than approaching it as this is another human being, and normally it has a positive outcome. Therefore, I should do the things to make the positive outcome happen. Now, if a red flag pops up, if she does something that I know I've seen in the past, if when women do this, it's going to it's going to be bad. If I see her doing certain things, if she says certain things, that means red flag. This is going to be a problem. I need to step back. Yes, that's true. But you do that in everything in life. If you're in a business environment, you don't just go to a business meeting and say, I know I'm going to invest in this project. I'm going to invest $6,000 because I just know all human beings are good, honest, and that they're going to respect my money, right? And I'm going to get a good return on my investment. No, you don't do that. You go and you say, let me evaluate the plan. Let's look at this project and evaluate whether we think it's going to make money or not. And that's how you make your decision. So you don't go into it and say, I know it's going to fail. And you don't go into it and say, I know it's going to succeed. No, you go into it and evaluate it based on what's there. It's like the man with the snake. He looks at the snake and he says, well, is the snake coming toward me? Is the snake, rattling, or is it threatening me? What is the snake doing? That's how you react to it. You don't see the poisonous snake and say, because it's a poisonous snake, I have to be afraid. No. You react based on what the snake is doing. And basically, snakes are fine. They're not going to hurt you unless you give them reason to. You go walk and step on the snake, yeah, it's going to bite you. You go and you step on the woman the wrong way, she's going to bite you.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And you do the wrong things, she's going to bite you.
Yeah.
But you should not assume that just because the woman is potentially a problem, that she's actually going to be a problem. Mm. You have to control your amygdala. You have to reprogram it when it comes to relationships. And you can't do that based on your past experience, because your past experience can be flawed.
Oh, okay. Well, I have a question because I want to eventually go on to a woman's amygdala, because that was deep. That was some new information that you were giving me. I want you to share that with our listening audience. But what can a man do to heal that imprint?
Well, the first thing is that, when we talk about the womb imprint, women have a regular womb, the uterus, and they have an auric uterus, an energy uterus.
Okay.
And the energy uterus is much more important. So the first 3 men that she has sex with, the first 3 times that she has penetration, her womb is imprinted with the energetic imprint of those men.
Oh, okay. Well, Master Yao, before you get too deep into that, wanted you to talk about the men, how we can heal it, or is this all connected?
It's connected.
Okay, I'll let you go. Hey, like they used to say, who's doing this, cat? Let you hold the tail. I'm gonna sit back and be quiet, let you do it in your way. Go ahead, go for it.
So when you see this imprint, you know, it's like the snake. It's like anything in life. It's like a business deal. It's like playing baseball.
Okay.
You know, when you throw the ball at the kid, the first time he's going to miss. And a lot of young boys, they feel like because they're not big and strong, they don't have good hand-eye coordination, that they're not going to be good at baseball. So you got to keep throwing the ball at them, and you got to tell them, you know, look at the ball. Don't look at the bat. Look at the ball and envision yourself hitting it with the bat.
Okay.
And eventually they'll get it because you throw it at them enough times, and the first time that they hit it, they know they can do it. And after that, it's just a matter of practice. And he gets that hand-eye coordination thing, and he's not afraid of failure.
Okay.
So then when he gets into a game with other kids, he knows there's the possibility that he can hit the ball. When he comes up to bat and his friends are, you know, cheering or booing, whatever, he's nervous, you know, and that's the problem, being nervous. Then if he remembers his training and it's embedded in his subconscious, he will remember to watch the ball, watch how it spins, look at the pitcher's arm when he throws it, and he knows the ball is going to curve, it's going to be straight, it's going to be a fastball or whatever, and he knows to, you know, to react a certain way, and he's going to have a better chance of hitting that ball, and he's going to hit the ball.
Okay.
It's the same in relationships. When the woman has a womb imprint, it's like a curveball.
Okay.
So really, so it's like, you know, because half the dudes out here who are dealing with these teenage girls are foul.
Yeah.
Let's just be real.
Yeah.
Most of these men dealing with young teenage girls are foul. So you got a high percentage of chance that she has a negative womb imprint.
Okay.
So there's two things you got to do to heal that. Number one, you can't be angry at her because she's got a negative womb imprint. It's like saying, you know, you're working in a hospital and you're a doctor and you're mad at everybody that comes in the door because they're sick.
Okay.
But that's what the hospital is there for.
Okay.
To heal them. You
Okay.
can't be mad at them because they're sick. That's your purpose there. So you can't be mad at the woman because she's got a negative womb imprint. You've got to learn to hit the ball. You've got to learn that if she's throwing you a slider, what do you do when somebody throws you a slider?
Okay.
When the woman has got this kind of a negative imprint because this happened to her or that happened to her, then you got to think, and it's not that hard to think about what to do.
Okay. I'm getting it now. I'm getting it. You bringing it around for a brother. I'm getting it now. So
it's like you're saying, okay, you don't sit there and complain. Well, this heifer's got so much negativity and so many issues and so much this, that, and the other. No. You say, okay, let's find out. Let's ask her about these first three guys she dealt with. Let's ask her about her experience. And right away, you know, this is what her negative imprint looks like. Don't do that.
Oh, okay. So she's throwing you that imprint. She coming, she throwing it. You sitting there. Shoot, you might get fancy. Tap the bat on your foot and like just swing for the fences. Boom.
Like,
you saw it coming.
Okay. And if you've lived more than, you know, if you're like 20 or 30 years old, you've met enough women that if you stop and think about it, you already know what these different imprints look like and what their reaction is going to be. So then if she's got a negative womb imprint and she throws you a curve, a slider, a fastball, whatever, you don't get mad. You just, you learn how to swing your bat so that you can make contact with the ball. In other words, you don't do the things that she's afraid of.
Oh, okay.
If she's afraid of this happening to her because she's got this imprint, don't do that. Make sure she knows you're not that guy.
Okay.
And so, you know, you got to say, well, look, I'm not the guy who said he was going to take you to the prom and didn't show up.
Oh, okay.
you know, and you got to do stuff to prove that you're not that guy.
Okay.
A lot of women are worried about infidelity, cheating. It's like you're going to make a fool of her. You're having sex with her, and you're having sex with Jane over here and Sue over here. And then the people in high school find out, and she looks like a fool.
Mm-hmm.
If that's part of her womb imprint, don't do that.
Mm.
If you do, then you're just making it worse, and it's going to be the snake that bites you.
Okay.
Because that relationship's not going to end well. And then what have you done? You haven't gotten the best that she has to offer, and you've made the situation worse for the next man.
Mm.
So again, we look at this thing and we see that when people are teenagers, that's when all this programming happens, and you can change it as a man, and you should. In fact, you must change it. You can't go through your adult life as a man based on fear and based on what toxic women have done to other men or to you in the past. You have to say, okay, when they throw me the curveball, you know, you're anticipating the ball's going to curve, and you swing based on the fact that you know it's not coming straight.
Yeah.
You got to make an adjustment. And you do.
Uh-oh, you got a candygram.
You got to do that. You can't say, I know this woman has had bad history with men. She's got baggage.
Okay.
Therefore, I don't like her. I don't like this situation. You've got to say, oh, okay, here is the negatives to that. Let's avoid that. Let's take the steps to make sure she knows I'm not that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you know, you can't say to it in baseball, every time the pitcher throws a fastball, I'm going to strike out. You just got to hit that particular pitch. And it's the same thing with men. So you got, a woman has about 4 months to program a man.
Mm-hmm.
And so the man is going to be in this situation where when he first meets a woman, it's exciting. And he's in trance.
Mm-hmm.
And he's being programmed.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, it's just like he's drunk because he's got all these neurochemicals in his brain.
Okay.
He's got all of these things happening where he's basically intoxicated for 4 months.
Yeah.
Because he's in his reptile brain.
Yeah. Okay.
And he sees her, he sees the figure, the hair, the face, the smile, and it just does something to him. And he doesn't react like his conscious mind normally does. After 4 months, she's not new anymore. And the programming is finished. And then what happens is the brain does not generate all those neurochemicals anymore. She's not as exciting if he's programmed wrong. She's not as interesting. She's not as much of a turn on as she was before.
Okay.
Because he didn't program himself right.
Mm.
Guess what happens? After about 6 or 7 months, he can get bored.
Yeah.
He can feel like he's unfulfilled. He can feel like, I'm not so sure I want to stay in this relationship.
Yeah, I get a lot of guys who say that too. They might have a pretty decent woman, but you know, after a while, they like, hey, Rom, I gotta get something else.
Exactly. And what they've done, the mistake that they've made is they didn't program themselves during those first 4 months. Mm. So when you got all of this stuff happening in the beginning of the relationship, you've got to program yourself not based on fear, based on the best possible outcome.
Okay.
I'm not saying you don't look at the red flags. And I'm not saying you don't say, well, okay, she has these negative qualities. We need to address that. Yeah, you do got to do that. But you don't say she's got this negative quality, therefore I'm not going to deal with her. You say, is there a chance she can fix that? Mm-hmm. And if the answer is yes, you try to fix it. If you look at her situation and you think, there's no way in the world she's going to fix this, then yes, you move on.
Oh, okay.
But you got 4 months to program yourself And what you'll find is after those 4 months, she's still as arousing as the first day you met her. She's still as interesting as the first day you met her. She's still as wonderful as the first day you met her. You tend to think, a lot of men tend to think, she starts to lose her value. Mm-hmm. That's not her, that's you.
Okay. So one of the things I'm getting, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because many men in this space try to say, well, this is what the women need to do, and they need to do this and that. But really, it seems like we have the power there on how we deal with the woman.
I'm saying that it's, both people have to work, but a lot of men, they have this negative programming that they got because they were operating in the teenage years out of fear and out of thirst. Okay. And you got to erase that. Once you become an adult, you got to start to act like an adult. And you're not going to find a woman, unless you're extremely lucky, who's perfect. Yeah. She may have a perfect body, personality screwed up. She may have a perfect personality, she doesn't look perfect. Yeah. She may have some negative financial stuff. She may already have a child. She may have some religious problems. She may have some beliefs that are a hindrance. And the question is not she has this religion, she's out. The question is, she has this religion, will that possibly improve? She's too fat for me. I don't like big women. Mm-hmm. Question is not, I'm going to reject her for that. The question is that a changeable thing in the next 5 or 6 years? Can she lose weight? Mm-hmm. You say, well, okay, I don't want to date her because she's poor. She doesn't have a job. No. You say, can this change? And if it can change, then that's something you can work on. You only say, I'm moving on and I'm going to leave her alone if you believe there's no possibility that it can improve.
Well, Master, yeah, let me be a devil's advocate, because I know it'll come up in the mind of someone watching this. Why bother with them at all if you got to do all that work? Shouldn't they be already together, got their stuff together at first, and you just look for that woman?
If men all had their stuff together and they were developing women properly, you could probably do that and be okay. But it's really not logical to assume that they're going to come ready packaged, because men are not out here helping women to evolve. They're out here blocking the evolution of women.
Okay. So here's a question though, because of course, because trust me, I'll get the question. It's like, well, why should we? That's going to be the question from a lot of guys, because remembering they have the negative, they got the negative imprint, they operating out of fear, they having issues. So it's like, well, why should we do all of this? I'm non-select. I'm non-select. These women don't like me. They rejected me. They didn't want to go out with me. So why should I do all of that?
If you want a good relationship, you're going to have to do some level of work, because you have to assume that most women are going to come to you with flaws. Now, women are very good at covering the flaws up.
yeah, very good. Well, you know what, too? And this is what I found, and this is a legitimate criticism many men have to really deal with. A lot of times we're blinded by the big breastises and the big old butt dump. And then we ignore the red flags. I mean, it could be waving and stuff, like banners and stuff, flashing lights, and we still she got a fat ass though. So I mean,
if you think that that's going to make you happy, you're a fool. Because it's like saying, if I have a lot of money, I'm going to be happy. You got to stop and start using some common sense. So the next thing you should do when you make that statement to yourself is look at the people who have a lot of money and see if they're happy. The answer is no. They're not. Money alone doesn't do it. Look at the guys who have the cutie pies as girlfriends and ask yourself, are they happy? The answer is no. Because half the time, the relationship gets sour and goes bad. So you've got to say to yourself, how do I, get through the maze, get through the landmines without one of them exploding on me? So you've got to use common sense and look and see ahead. Look at these guys who are doing child support.
Okay.
What did they do that got them in that situation? Look at the guys with 4 families. They got a child here, child there, and they're not really having a good relationship to any of their children. How did they get there? Look at the guys in divorce court, and divorce court is nasty. If you go to divorce court, and I've been there, and you sit there in the back of the courtroom and look, the women who are getting the best settlements and who are taking these guys to the cleaners and who are really damaging these men are some of the most attractive women. And so you say to yourself, okay, if I simply go after one thing, and that's all that's important to me, you know you are going to fail. Because all you got to do is go ahead 10 years and look at the guys like you who are 10 years older and look where they are and ask yourself, what were they doing when they were in my shoes? And it's going to tell you, if you don't do what we're saying here, then you're just basically going to be following in the footsteps of all the men who failed before you. And so learn by looking at them and understand, you can't just go after her based on her money. You can't go after her based on the fact that she's willing to take care of you. You can't go her based on the fact that she's got a perfect figure. You can't go her, based on the fact that she's super cute. You got to go based on the fact that whatever you find, you're going to have to do some work to make it better, to make it something that the two of you can last for longer than 3 or 4 years. And that's, today, you're not going to find that too often right off the bat, where she's going to come to you with that potential right then and there. A lot of women think they got that potential.
No,
Wrong.
They don't.
A lot of men think that they're ready to go now. Wrong. If you don't have your houses of a man online, she doesn't have her houses of a woman online. If you don't deal with that womb imprint, if you don't deal with that religious mess, if you don't deal with her belief systems about relationships, you have to deal with that stuff. You have to do that work.
Yeah.
Or what you fail to do is going to come back and bite you like that poisonous snake.
Well, you know what, Master? Yeah, it's interesting what you said about looking at the outcome, because just in this space here and talking with a lot of guys think, well, if I just had money, I just had status, I get some plastic surgery, everything would be great. Because, I talk a lot about selecting, non-selecting. I've done some videos recently, and I said to the guys, hey, just because you select with a lot of women don't mean it's going to be easy. They still get cheated on. They still go through divorce. They just, the only thing that really different is they just get better opportunities, because a lot of guys think there's an end result, but they're not paying attention to the other people. But then a bigger problem is they still have that fear, because then they'll see it and say, oh, I shouldn't do it, because they not really saying, okay, let me see what they're doing and learn from it. They'll say, oh, they fell into, and the fear comes in, and it's just like, boom, they get stagnant. You have a lot of men who are stagnant out here.
You really do. And I mean, I remember in my 20s where I went through a period of time where the women I went after, I was able to get them.
Okay.
And so I thought, and it was a false assumption, that just because I could get women to have sex with me, that I had achieved success.
Okay.
And a lot of the guys who are the select men, that's how they're operating. They're operating, they haven't got to the finish line. It's like you're, running a race and you stop halfway in.
Okay.
You haven't finished the race yet. You haven't finished the race until the relationship is successful for 3 or 4 years. If just getting to the point where she agrees to have sex with you, that's your goal, you're a fool.
Mm.
Because that's only part of the apple. It's got to be more than that. Or you end up like these brothers out here who, yes, they get a lot of sex, and the sex can be good, and it's gratifying. But then they're afraid to answer their phone. They're afraid of the court system. They're afraid of telling the truth. And they're living their life. It's like these guys who are afraid of bill collectors.
Oh, okay.
They're always living their life thinking they're going to come and repossess my stuff. Because they didn't pay their bills on time. They got bad credit. And they're always, living behind. They're not present. They're not able to really enjoy everything because they're not stable financially. It's the same thing in a relationship. If you say, okay, I can get sex from a lot of good women, a lot of attractive women, good sex. And young brothers can do that. They can get sex. And they feel like, I have succeeded in a relationship. No, you have not. Until that person, that's a bond formed, and you're able to get some type of benefit besides just sex. If you're just getting sex from the woman and that's all, you're not really an alpha male at all. You're not really operating on all your cylinders. I mean, the woman should be giving you so much more.
So wait a minute. So, okay, why don't we jump into that? Because you got a lot of guys, they thinking, oh yeah, I'm doing all this with these women, but what else should the women be giving the men? And then afterwards, I wanted to get into the woman's amygdala, but what should the women be giving the men?
I mean, everything.
Okay.
I mean, really, I think men today, especially young men, they got low expectations.
Okay.
And they don't expect much from women. They, it's like a game.
Yeah.
They're having sex every once in a while. And what they say is successful is the woman is not asking a lot of them. The woman is putting up with their behavior regardless of what that behavior is. And basically what you're saying is, that I'm willing to settle for a situation where the woman, her opinion of my value is very low. My stock is very low, and that's all I get. No, she should be helping you to get where you need to get financially. She should be making your life stress-free.
Okay.
Because being a man today, especially a black man, is stressful as hell.
Yeah.
And so if she's not helping you eliminate that stress by her presence, you're not getting everything from her. If she's looking at your phone, trying to break into your phone, if she's constantly talking to her girlfriends about trying to figure out what you're doing, if she's constantly, giving you a hard time about everything you do, every decision you make, she's not an asset, she's a liability.
Exactly.
So you're not getting everything from her that you should. You should consider yourself as a asset. And therefore, it's like you make a purchase, you buy a stock in a company. You don't buy a stock in the company and expect it to just sit there. It's supposed to give you something back.
Okay.
Right? And
exactly.
So the woman should be constantly giving you more and more and more.
Okay.
And if you're not expecting that and demanding that, you're selling yourself cheap.
And you know what? You got a good point there, because that's something I've talked about in a video before. Is that woman an asset or is she a liability? Because she got to bring more to the table than just, the big old booty waving in the air. That's nice. But like you said, is she eliminating stress in your life, or is she bringing more? Because there's a lot of dudes out there, they're getting sex from a woman. But like you said, the women going through their phone, they talking with their girlfriends. They trying constantly to keep your savings account low because they constantly giving into your money, or they need you to do this, that, and the third. And a lot of guys actually going through it just for the illusion of looking like they're on top. And half of them ain't even getting quality sex from a woman anyway. They getting pity sex. They getting that chore sex. You know, she ain't wearing the Victoria's Secret panties or, you know, just levitating or anything. She's just sitting there like looking at the ceiling while you're doing your thing, and they think they're doing something.
Beyonce made this record, you know, "Let Me Upgrade You."
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
And in that song, she talks about, you know, look, I'm going to compliment what you do and make you better at it. I really love that song because it really talks about the fact that she's saying, I'm not just a pretty woman that, you know, is a trophy. I can help you. And that's what my heart wants to do. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying, you know, that's what the man should be expecting, that she's trying to upgrade him. And so that's a big difference in that woman and her mentality and her heart and the average woman today.
Well, that's a good segue too, because I wanted to talk about the woman's amygdala. I mean, and how, because you had started talking about the auric womb imprint. Because I've spoke about the regular womb imprint, but now we getting a little bit deeper. So tell us about that.
So the woman's amygdala is almost the opposite of the man's. It has the same function. It's saying what's important and what's not so important. And so the woman is, you know, most women today, regardless of their race, they do not have a regular brain function. And I'm not trying to denigrate women. No, that this is just the way that it is. Her brain function is irregular because society grooms it that way, because, you know, this society wants sex to be unnatural. In other words, they want the value of sex to be high, but not to deliver benefits. So in other words, it's like they train young girls to change their amygdala to try to keep men out.
Say that again, Master Yao. Say that again for the people in the back and the slow folks.
They train young girls so that their sexual orientation is such that they make sex scarce, and their amygdala is designed artificially to keep men out. They have the propensity to reject men more than accept them. Even when they're attracted to men, they are moving in such a way socially that their behavior is to push men away and to give men a problem and to create like a challenge for them around sex and around influence. Who does the woman listen to? Who does she trust? What does it take before she feels like you have value enough that she supports you? So her amygdala is not the way it's supposed to be naturally. Naturally, her amygdala is supposed to say, I need a man. It's based on the archetype of the male energy. It's based on the healer, warrior, hunter, eagle. So she's supposed to be saying, I need a man that's going to protect me. I need a man who's going to heal me. I need a man who's going to financially support me. I need a man who's going to help me plan my life, right? So I can get the best out of life.
Okay.
But they're not, the amygdala is not designed that way because the women are programmed wrong. They're programming saying, we are starting from the assumption that men are bad, and therefore I have to keep them out of my panties until I get what I want. This has the exact opposite reaction. So what happens? She has the chance to program men in the first 4 months of the relationship. What is she doing? Because of her amygdala, she's programming them to keep them out until her list, okay, now I got this, I got this, I got this, I got that. Okay, I'll now start having sex with you, but I'm having sex with you to get what I want. You program the man that way, you're programmed the man based on fear and scarcity, And so what happens after those 4 months are gone, the man's, you're no longer new.
Uh-oh.
And he's not in his reptile brain anymore. The reptile brain hands off the programming to the cortex and the subconscious, and you become a program. And since you've programmed him based on scarcity and based on fear, then for the rest of that relationship, that's how he's going to operate with you. Oh. Therefore, it's easy for him to have other relationships on the side that you don't know about. It's easy for him to objectify you. It's easy for him to abuse you. It's easy for him to do all of this stuff that a normal woman should not want. He's not going to be trying to help you become the highest and best version of a woman that you can become, because you programmed him based on fear and the fact that you're trying to get what you want.
Okay. Now I have a question because, all right, so how does that go into the whole select, non-select thing?
It's like, I mean, it's the most messed up scenario in this society when it comes to relationships. You know, I mean, men have some screwed up stuff that they're doing, as I've just talked about.
Yes.
You know, we go back to the example, the metaphor of the poisonous snake. You know, as I said before, you know, we grew up in the country around nature. So when we saw animals, we you know, they were all the same. They're in a natural environment, and the animal's just there doing what it does. We see birds, you know, and they're birds. We see snakes, they're just snakes. They're not especially dangerous. We see deer, they're just deer. You react to it the way that it is. So when we are looking at the scenario with women, it's the same thing. When you see the woman, you have to say, okay, what is actually there, and how do I change myself and stop being programmed to women based on what happened to me before? So now, women have this program where they judge men saying, this man is select, this man over here is non-select. And so the select man, I'm going to do anything I have to get his attention and to get in bed with him and to get him to wrap him around my finger and to influence him so that he does what I want him to do. Boom. And so you set yourself up for failure, because the men that you want the most select men, you program them to misuse you, to mistreat you. Because you're willing to do all of this stuff. You're willing to give up the poo-tang, and you're willing to let them get away with stuff. You're willing to let them, you know, abuse you and mistreat you and talk bad to you and belittle you because you have categorized them as select.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you're guaranteed to fail. But that's what women do. So what happens in that scenario? You know, 33% of the men are select men. But guess what? As soon as you do that, that means 66% of the men are non-select.
Yeah.
So now you've created this whole big majority of men out here, and they've now become your adversary. And what's going to happen with that? You think, I'm just going to avoid all these scrubs.
Yeah.
Wrong, because those scrubs are going to have a big impact and a big influence on the select men. We don't live in a world where all the select men live in Georgia and all the non-select men live in North Carolina. No, they're all mixed up and they're all influencing each other. So when the majority of the men have a negative attitude and posture toward women, so are the select men. So you basically poisoned 2/3 of the male pool against you, they're not going to build you up. They're not going to protect you. They're not going to care about you because you don't care about them.
Okay.
And they are going to be the ones who are going to poison the select men.
Mm. Yeah, you know, that's deep because especially in the black community, there even on this YouTube space, you got black women say, well, the black men aren't protecting us. They're not doing this and that. And they keep saying why, but you poison 2/3 of the community, of the men that you want to protect you. And then they're influencing members of that select group. I mean, probably not all, but a critical mass of them. So shoot, that number from what is it, 67% might go up to 80 or 90%.
I'm just saying, I've been on both sides of that. When I was considered a select man, I didn't have to work hard in a relationship.
Mm.
They believed what I told them, even though they might have doubted it in their heart. Because they wanted me to keep taking them out, they believed it.
Mm.
They did not confront me about it. If I was a select man and I said, I don't want to go to church with you because I don't believe that, they still dated me. They still went to bed with me. With a non-select man, they are attempting to say, look, you need to do based on what I want you to do, or I'm not going to cooperate in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
you know what, Master Yao, I had
get
actually
away
said,
with all this stuff. If I'm getting away with whatever I want to get away with, where is my motivation to change to be a better man?
well, that's what I was saying. I did that in a video. I said, this is how you know the women are going to throw it at you. They're going to try to seduce you. But then if you do
All
it,
I got to do is pull up to the Mercedes.
bad boy, because he can say whatever, and I've known men to do that. I hate to say it, I've done that. I'd be like, say whatever. I was like, damn, they went for that. Sometimes I would do stuff. I hate to say it. I hate to say it. Sometimes I would do stuff just to see if I got away with it. I'm like, damn, this is crazy. Like, okay. I say, no, I don't worship God the same way you do. Okay. Like,
if you come up with the select, non-select BS, the selectmen are going to say, because I know if you don't come up with everything that I want, I'm just going to pass over you and go to the next woman who will.
exactly.
Because I'm select.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get that environment embedded in society, men don't feel accountable. They just do what the hell they want to do because they know they can get away with it.
Yeah,
Why? Because they're rare. They have value because they're scarce, because there's not a lot of them.
Mm.
It's like, why is a diamond worth something? Because it's not common.
Okay.
Why is gold worth so much? Because it's hard to get.
Mm.
That's the mistake. When you make one group of men artificially, the key word is artificially, higher in value, when they haven't really done anything. They haven't helped you raise your kids. They haven't elevated you. They haven't supported you. They haven't protected you, but you're still putting them on a pedestal. What do you think the outcome of that is going to be?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You're going to act a fool. And that's what they're doing.
Well,
These guys out here that get what they want so easy, they're not going to try to improve nothing. They're not going to try to better themselves. They're not going to even be worried about what does the woman need? What do I need to do to heal the woman? What do I need? They're not even thinking about that. They're thinking about, I wish she would complain about something. I'll just go someplace else.
no, that's usually the case. And I mean, you know, my thing is, well, you know me, my thing is always making improving the guys and really getting them to that. But then that could still be a problem for the guys because, you know, they're not required to be moral or good. And that's a significant part of the select crew. I mean, that's just a reality. Not a lot of bad boys in there. You know, a lot of bad boys. But, you know, at the same time, you know, when I see women complain, because I wrote an article for this website, and oh man, sisters got hot. I said black women create the men that they later complain about, because you can see it even with the kids. You know, you going to get like I know some young ladies, they have sons, and you know, or already making them cute, dressing them up, doing their hair and stuff. And I say, yeah, you raising a pimp. And they got mad at me, but they actually creating the next generation.
It's so true. But you know, how do you get them to see the big long-term picture?
Wow.
That's the challenge. It's like, you know, because they want the guys so bad, and they got this fairy tale of thinking, just like we talked about earlier. A lot of men think that they don't have to do the work to get a good woman, that she's just going to show up ready-made. No, you got to do the work. And it's the same with women.
Yeah.
They think, I'm just going to look cute, and I'm going to get me the guy that I'm attracted to, and that's going to be the end of that. It never works that way.
No.
It's the problem with African Americans a lot. And this problem is their concept of form over function.
Yeah.
In other words, they're constantly looking at the form, the outside way that things look, the facade, the appearance, and they're not looking at the function. You gotta have both.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at a woman, I'm looking at two sides. I'm looking at the form.
Yeah.
How does she look? What does she say? How does she present? What kind of class? What kind of elegance? What kind of what kind of charisma does she have?
Okay.
But then the other side of that is, what is her function? Can she cook? Can she raise kids? Does she know what to do with a man? You know, if you know how to handle money, that's function. And so if the woman is basically focused on form, and that's where we got today. I mean, you look at any magazine and you look through the ads and it tells you everything. All the ads, if you look at the stores, all the stores are geared to appealing to form only. When you go into these stores and buy, whether it's toys for kids, dresses for women, perfume, anything, accessories, hair salons, whatever, it's all about form, no function. When you try to get women to invest money, they will invest 95% of their money into form.
Yeah.
Beauty salons are never going to go out of business.
No.
Hair supply never going to go out of business. Cosmetics never going to go out of business.
Yeah.
But banking, business, self-help classes, books, everything that deals with improving your function, women are not investing in that. They're not trying to increase their function. So what's going to happen in the relationship? They're going to have the appeal. They're going to have the curb appeal. And they're going to get in the door and fail because they don't got the function.
Well, you know what, Master? Yeah, it's interesting you said that, because I was talking with a friend about that. It say, you know, it's kind of funny. Like, a lot of very attractive women are single. Like, you be thinking, oh, they have these guys lined up, but then once you get past the facade, they're not assets. They can't take care of a lot of functions. They cute, and you just like, this ain't working. This is not working.
You talked about it earlier when you talked about the fact that it's an illusion.
Yeah.
And we have this illusion going on. I mean, men have it. It's the thing with the poisonous snake. You have this illusion that you're going to be able to get the snake, you know, to do what a rabbit does.
Yeah.
And a snake is not a rabbit. And you have this illusion that you're going to be able to get the snake to do whatever you want it to do, but that's never going to happen. Snake is going to be a snake, and that's what it's supposed to be. If you get a woman and you're saying, you know, and you're having the same type of an illusion, you have this illusion that she's going to do the things that I want her to do because I want her to do them, ain't going to happen.
Okay.
If she doesn't have the function, she doesn't have the function.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how much form she's got. that's when you know, it's like people go to church on Sunday. Monday morning, they're worshiping dominion. It's
We
a
ain't
whole
ready for
other.
Dominion. Hey. I don't want to go there tonight, man. I
It's
don't
like
want to go
it's
there.
like
That's
so.
another show, man.
So it's like
That's an on-demand show. I got to put that on one of my pay channels or
it's
something.
like
Ain't
you
ready.
sit up there and you're saying, my form is going to church.
Mm-hmm.
That's the form. I'm
Okay.
pretending as if I'm this holy, pure, whatever. And Monday morning, you're back to no form. You're
Mm-hmm.
back to doing all the stuff that you don't like to do. You don't want to get up to go to work because you hate your job, and you should. And you don't want to take care of your kids, and you hate daycare. It's too expensive. Your credit card's maxed out. You know, your car's not working right. That's the function.
Mm.
And it's like, okay, so, you know, the proper way in a utopia would be you go to church and you complain to the reverend about the lack of function in the rest of the week. And the reverend says, okay, let's deal with daycare. Let's deal with your cars, fixing those cars. Let's deal with this credit card debt. Let's deal with getting you more money,
Okay.
you know. But that's not what they say. They basically don't want to talk about anything except form,
Mm.
stuff that's meaningless.
Yeah.
And Monday morning, you're back to the same grind that's function based. And if you don't have the function, your life, the quality of your life suffers.
Oh, wow. That's man. That's some powerful stuff. But Master Yao, because we got a few more minutes left. Give us your website.
The organization is called Grand Trine International. And so it's www.grand Trine, and that's TRINE. That's N as in Nancy, E. So it's Grand Trine, INT, or the abbreviation for international.com. So it's grandtrineinternational.com.
Okay.
And that is the main website. And we have books and classes and events. We got a retreat coming up in August. It's going to be powerful. We just had a heart class that was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And we have a lot of good books on there. The two books that most of the stuff is based on is Awakening the Master Masculine and Awakening the Master Feminine.
Okay. You got your books there. Yeah, I
Yeah.
always promote them, and I've actually have a lot of people who ask about the books and friends who got them, and you know, everybody always think they like all the women, they so cute. All of them think they elegant rose. All of them think they so cute, and that's
So
powerful. And men should have that because you know, in this space, many men talk about improving themselves, having game, but if you bring those 4 archetypes online as best as possible, trust me, you'll get more attention from some women. You gotta still deal with their function though.
that is the function right there. Those 4 archetypes. That's function. That's when the man has that, and you know, I mean, the bottom line, what I'm trying to get at here, the whole purpose of Grand Trine is that your experience in a relationship is the best it can be.
Okay.
You know, that's the purpose of all the books, the classes, all of that stuff, is that your life, that you're happy, you're filled with joy, and your relationship, you look forward to it. You look forward to spending time with the other person. You look forward to sharing your life with them, and you want to make them the best that they can be. And if we're not doing that, we're failing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the whole thing. It's you know, and that's one of the things, and that's where starting to push more towards. Let's take this to another level. So many, but you know what? I wanted to talk about the amygdala because so many men are caught in that fear, just the fear to approach a woman. And I didn't realize it was so bad because even during my shy days, it was never just like a fear. It was just, I ain't feel like walking over. So it's like, it was hard for me to understand that. But then as I talk with more men, deal with them, it's that fear, and it goes back to their teen years, and the woman, they got negative programming from dealing with women. And then, you know, of course, on the women's side, they got this artificial criteria, as you said, which is a powerful statement that, you know, they keep sex out of the reach of men and make most men jump through hoops. And not even the right ones, because some of the guys who get an easy access, man, they some bad characters. They some of the worst guys. They don't care anything about them, and then they pushing away some good men. Like, one of the things that I try to do is reach those guys who got something going on, but because they might not know the codes to get past those women's defenses, they not winning out. And these are actually men who would actually take the time to deal with a woman who might not be all of that, or might need some help with something. But they push those away. But, you know, there's so many things, because I think one of the issue that we have overall, we're not looking at some of the subliminal stuff, and amygdala is definitely something very subliminal. We don't see it.
It's very, very true that, you know, it's hard when you're a teenager, you're sort of at the mercy of society. And basically people are going to do some foul stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when you're 21, at some point in time, the man has to wake up and say, okay, I got these programs. They're not serving me. They don't help me. They're hurting me. They're crippling me. I didn't ask for this. I got all this negative energy around me. And that's how you're functioning. And at some point in time, the man has got to take responsibility and say, yes, I got a bad deal, but I got to suck it up, and I've got to reprogram myself based on how a natural man is.
Yeah.
And that natural man is not, he's not afraid of the snake.
Okay.
His posture toward the snake is based on what the snake is going to do. If the snake is trying to attack him, yes, he has to defend himself. Walk away, kill the snake, do what you got to do. But if the snake is out in the wild doing its thing, leave the snake alone and don't get hysterical because you see a snake.
Yeah.
Don't let your amygdala run you. So when you see an attractive woman and immediately you start thinking fear, scarcity, negative sexual programming, negative sexual experiences, you have to stop, take a deep breath, and start reprogramming yourself. Reprogramming yourself to say, it's possible to have a positive outcome if I program myself to go into relationships with the concept that a positive outcome is possible. If you don't start there, you're definitely going to fail.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting you say that, because I think overall with men and women, we're so used to failing. We actually have our plan in place. We go in and we don't expect it to, you know, we got our backup plan, you know, who we're going to cheat with, what we're going to do, you know, our stuff we're going to keep to the side. We don't go in like we're going to win. In fact, even just on an ordinary level, many guys who approach women, they're already expecting rejection based on past experience, instead of thinking, hey, she could do something, or that very beautiful woman. Because, you know, it's like guys are going to go for that, but they feel like, yeah, she's going to reject me because of this. I'm not tall, I'm ugly, or something like that. And, you know, you can't have that expectation. You don't know until you say something to her. You don't know what she's going to do. She might be very receptive. Hey, she might reject you, but as you said, as you learn and you start recognizing the womb imprint, you already know, you already start getting an idea. Because that's one thing I've actually said well, I've probably said it privately, dealt with enough women, I can pretty much look at one and say, oh yeah, this is what she's going to do. Okay, this is how I'll deal with it. and I just adapt. You know, I just say, oh, you throwing a curveball? I got you, girl. Uh-oh, fastball? I got that too. And as you said, of making an assessment, it's like, is she worth it? Nah, that's a no for me, dog. I'm gonna let her walk along and deal with this other one. You know, I can work with her. She's trying to function. She can make a cherry pie and some buffalo wings. So anyway, want to thank you for coming on, Master Yao. And this has been, well, an occasional episode. Y'all know I don't like doing this all the time. But if y'all like this, for the people listening, I can bring Master Yao back on and make this a regular thing. Y'all know I ain't going to do hangouts because I don't have the patience for chats. So anyway, want to thank everybody for coming out and have a...
Let me ask you, what do the guys do on the chat that kind of upset you?
Okay, see, I'm trying to end the show. They trifling, you know me, I got that controlling nature. I'm like, man, if you on here, you gotta be serious. They be just saying whatever, got trolls. And you know me, I don't feel like spending all that much time trying to kick them away. But anyway, let me end this show right now, and peace and blessings, everybody.
Thank you.